World leaders gathered for the Munich Security Conference last weekend in one of the most important military and foreign policy conferences of the year. And this year's theme was Westlessness. Now, no, I haven't developed a speech impediment. This is about a fundamental shift in the world order, away from the West. So since the end of the Second World War, the West has been a key block in world events. It's not totally unified. In general, the West has been thought to include the United States, Britain, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and then Western Europe, with Eastern Europe joining the West at the end of the Cold War. And this bloc has generally held similar values: freedom, democracy, relatively free market economics, held together by a series of overlapping alliances, things like NATO and then the European Union. And Westlessness talks about the end of this worldview, the end of this bloc. These group of countries wield less and less power on the world scene. It is less unified. Parts of the West are turning against those kind of supposed core values. And in focusing on Westlessness, the conference exposed one of the most important trends in world events right now. You had leaders there from both the US and on Europe giving their thoughts on the big issues of the day. And so in doing that, the conference really exposed the massive divide between these two parts of the West. Politico wrote that the two sides aren't just far apart on the big questions facing the West, threats from Russia, Iran, and China. They're in parallel universes. So a lot of division on display here. Now, the one that really drove the agenda at this conference was the French President Emmanuel Macron. He really made it clear that he wants a strong Europe with a strong military. He wants a Europe that avoids being America's junior partner, and instead he wants to move closer to Russia. Now, not everybody in Europe agrees with this, and that disagreement was also on display during the conference. But Mr. Macron said that he would be happy for a smaller core group of EU nations to move towards a military union and leave the rest behind. If the whole EU isn't on board with this, then he just wants a smaller core group to go and create this army, this military that he wants. Mr. Macron even raised the prospect of France helping this military union by sharing its nuclear weapons. So currently there's a lot of European powers that rely on America for their nuclear umbrella and use and almost own basically American nuclear weapons. But Macron wants to end that dependence on America. We have to think of a European way as well, he said. And so shortly before the conference, he invited Germany for talks on the subject of nuclear weapons, and perhaps even on sharing those nuclear weapons with France. So it's clear that the West is no more. There are now two power blocks in what used to be the West. There's a German-dominated Europe on the one side, and then the United States, Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, etc. on the other. Now, understanding this divide and the reason for it is fundamental to all of the forecasts that we make here at the Trumpet. As Herbert W. Armstrong proved in his free book, The United States and Britain in Prophecy, these countries, the US, Britain, etc., along with several others, including the Jewish state of Israel in the Middle East, they are descended from biblical Israel. And this European power, by contrast, well, that's the force that God is raising up to punish Israel. These two parts of the West have fundamentally different backgrounds and fundamentally different destinies. And that's why we see this divide appearing. This post-world order seemed to have these two in one block, the West, just because America was powerful and Europe had been devastated by World War II and was weak. But as Europe rises, well, that divide becomes clearer and clearer. And so clear that it was the theme for that Munich Security Conference. This is the true source of Westlessness. If you want to know more about this split, and then also France's role on it that was very much on display at this conference, then Trumpet Editor-in-Chief Gerald Fleury's article, France is Resurrecting the Holy Roman Empire, is a great place to start. That's from our latest Trumpet print edition of our magazine. You can find that at our website, thetrumpet.com, or you can click on the link in the description to take you straight to that article.